Hey, good morning. It's day 33. I'm Henry. You're watching my channel, Henry's Millions. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject I think is going to help you. And it's the problem of vacillation. That's a great word, but probably one you almost never hear. And so today's talk is about why we keep changing our minds, the psychology, the philosophy, and the problem of vacillation, changing our minds, flip-flopping, waffling. You've heard those terms before. So have you ever found yourself saying yes to something one day, then completely backing out the next day? Or making a plan you're excited about, only to feel unsure or even opposed to it just 24 hours later? This pattern of flip-flopping, of constantly changing your position, your mood, your intentions, is what the Spanish philosopher Baltasar Gracián called vacillation. It was interesting because yesterday I was reading from his book. His book is The Art of Worldly Wisdom. It's great, from 1892. It's amazing how some of the greatest things, the greatest writings, were from 130 plus years ago. So I'm going through his book and I found a section on do not vacillate. I'm going to read this to you. By the way, Baltasar Gracián is best known for his work in The Art of Worldly Wisdom. It's a guide to navigating human behavior and power dynamics. It's very focused, realistic, and brutally honest writing, especially about how character and perception affect success. So here's what he said. He wasn't a fan of flip-flopping, waffling, changing your mind. Here's what he said. Do not vacillate. Let not your actions be abnormal either from disposition or affectation. An able man is always the same, or woman. An able man or woman is always the same in his or her best qualities. And the gender pronouns are interchangeable today, okay? We're all the same. He gets the credit of trustworthiness. If he changes, he does so for good reason or good consideration. In matters of conduct, change is hateful. There are some who are different every day. Their intelligence varies. Still more, their will. And with this, their fortune. Yesterday's white is today's black. Today's no was yesterday's yes. They always give the lie to their own credit and destroy their credit with others. Very nice way to put that. Because he's saying that they give the lie to their own credit and destroy their credit with others. Of course, if you're waffling or flip-flopping, you're going to really destroy or tarnish that trust that others have for you. And especially there was a line that was memorable for me. Yesterday's white is today's black. Today's no was yesterday's yes. I don't know how many of us have experience with this or have this issue, this vacillating waffling. In some people, it's much worse than others. It is a real problem. You may be thinking, oh, what's the big deal? I don't change my mind much. But with some people, it is a big problem. And it's one that we can work on. So by the way, you'll see later in this talk, I'm not really going back into delving deep into what are the causes of it and so on. I'll touch on that lightly, but we just want to bring more awareness to this, right? So we do this often. We start when we vacillate, when we flip-flop, when we waffle, when we change our mind, we start to lose credibility, not just with others, but with ourselves. We stop trusting ourselves because we know that if I give someone my word today, tomorrow I might change my mind. If I act today on emotion, out of love, anger, whatever that strong feeling or emotion is, I know when it subsides, I'm going to feel differently. So you start to realize that about yourself. So the key is that it's not about never changing your mind. Flexibility is good, and growth is necessary. But when our decisions are driven by like fear, pressure, emotions, the chaos of these emotions, we're not being flexible. That's not flexibility at all. We're being lost, and it's not a good thing. Here's where philosophy steps in, right? So I've read this from Gracián. I looked into philosophy philosophical speakers in history to see if anybody mentioned something about this. And what do you know? There was Aristotle, ancient Greek philosopher, student of Plato, and teacher to Alexander the Great. It's Aristotle. He wrote on nearly every subject: ethics, politics, logic, biology. But in ethics, he taught that virtue lies in balance. So his philosophy centers on reason, habit, and the development of character as the path to the good life. So Aristotle, he talked about the mean between two extremes. And he taught that virtue is that mean, right? The center line between two extremes. Take courage, it lies between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity, it lies between stinginess and waste. So in the same way, steadiness, what we might call constancy of commitment, sits between rigidity and instability. And vacillation for Aristotle would be a failure of practical wisdom, what he called phronesis. We've heard this word before, by the way. Way back in some of my earlier talks, we mentioned this. And the phronesis is, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this stuff right, it's in Greek. It's the ability to reason through life and act in a way that reflects character. You know what character is, right? It's the totality of our habitual or patterns of behavior, habitual responses or reactions. Patterns of behavior forms our character. So the most relevant discussion of virtue as a means between extremes appears in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Look it up if you like. It's book 2, chapters 6 to 9. So I paraphrase some excerpts for you, and with some brief context. So he says, Aristotle argues that moral virtue is a state of character concerned with choosing the mean, the intermediate between excess and deficiency, relative to us and determined by reason. For example, courage is the mean between cowardice, deficiency, and rashness, excess. The virtuous person habitually aims at this balanced point, guided by practical wisdom, which is phronesis. We're never going to use this word, so I don't know. I'm teaching you a word you're never going to use in your life, but you'll at least recognize it. Not emotional impulse or social pressure, right? Guided by practical wisdom, not emotional impulse or social pressure. Here's a literal quotation, 2 of them from Aristotle. Virtue, then, he says, is a state of character concerned with choice, lying in a mean. Not lying as in but lying, that means resting on a mean. The mean relative to us. This being determined by reason, and by that reason by which the prudent man would determine it. That's Nicomachean Ethics, book 2. And he says again in another part of book 2, chapter 9, it is no easy task to be good, Aristotle says, for in everything it is no easy task to find the middle. Anyone could get angry, that is easy, but to do this to the right person, to the right extent, at the right time, with the right motive, and in the right way, that is not easy. If we could just reflect on that for a moment. It's even, thousands of years ago, they were still wrestling with the same important topics and considerations that we have today. And these were the best minds of the time. Okay, so find the middle, the middle ground. So Aristotle contributed unknowingly, posthumously, to our talk today in the following ways. So vacillation can be seen as a failure to find the mean, the middle point, the balance. It's a failure to find the mean. Doesn't mean the person's a failure. It's just this behavior, this way of expressing this indecisiveness. That's a failure. You can work on it. You can fix it. It's not merely indecision, but an oscillation between extremes. Rash enthusiasm one day, total retreat the next day. Just think for a moment. Have you been vacillating recently? You change your mind? Do you not like committing, making commitments, making dates, planning months in advance? Or do you find that sometimes you make decisions out of emotion, anger, fear, whatever, and then just even an hour later, feel bad that you did that? That's not good, and I bet it doesn't sit well. So I think just from personal experience, if we can integrate these two extremes of ours, extreme emotional states, if it is caused by differences in emotion, if we can sit with those and integrate them. So if you're feeling, you know that you're acting out of anger or making a decision out of anger, or some powerful emotion, maybe love or whatever. Maybe it could be a good decision, a kind decision, but then later on you regret it. So what if we can sit with these two states of ours? Like, you know you're going to feel differently later. And so you sit with that and you think, how am I, I'm going to be a little bit different later. I'm going to have these emotions tied to my, the present state. How is that man or woman, you, yourself, going to be thinking and feeling 10 minutes from now, tomorrow? And how can I sit with these two? How I'm feeling, thinking, acting today, and that other state, the other individual tomorrow. And try to incorporate these two extremes. So you end up coming out with a much more balanced reaction, response, decision, thought. And I've done that recently, and it worked wonders. It was amazing, because then the decision ends up being enduring and one that you feel good about. So let's get into the psychological perspective of it. Just going to touch on that. I'm going to get in too much, because that's just a forest you can get lost in. And the causes there's a variety of causes. You figure it out. If you're suffering from this, you figure it out. That's your homework. So vacillation is what we've been talking about. It's a tendency to waver in decision making or frequently change one's mind. It's been explored in psychology under various concepts, including indecisiveness, inconsistency, and cognitive instability. Big words. So, as we've been talking, Baltasar Gracián's observation that vacillation undermines trust and self-consistency aligns closely with findings in modern psychological literature. Here's some key psychological concepts in literature. Okay, I've got just a few points here, just to give you some direction if you want to, on your own, get into that in more depth. So indecisiveness as a personality trait. Psychological research recognizes indecisiveness as a stable trait for some individuals. Indecisive people often struggle with making choices, experience anxiety about decisions, and may regret or reverse their choices frequently. The trait is linked to lower self-esteem and higher levels of neuroticism, as well as difficulties in goal pursuit and life satisfaction. Lower self-esteem, that's interesting. This trait of indecisiveness is linked to lower self. Makes sense, lower self-esteem. You're not happy with yourself when this happens. And you know the people that are affected aren't happy about it, aren't happy with you. That makes sense. Higher levels of neuroticism, difficulties in goal pursuit and life satisfaction. Definitely makes sense. The next point, self-consistency and trust. So consistency in behavior and decision-making is foundational for building trust. You know that, both in oneself and in social relationships. We not only want to build trust and need to build trust between others, right? Trust for them, they trust us, but also in oneself. You have to be able to trust yourself. That's a big thing, because if you don't trust yourself, then you won't be able to believe the decisions you're making, the stands you're taking. You won't trust yourself. And conversely, when you stick to your word, when you stick to the decisions you make, the actions you take, and not just sticking with them, but feeling good about them, standing firm with those as time moves on, that kind of really buttresses or strengthens your trust in yourself and your decision making. You know, when you make a decision, you feel good about it. It's going to be enduring, and people will know that too. So there's a Leon Festinger's theory here related to self-consistency and trust. Cognitive dissonance highlights the discomfort between people feel when their actions are inconsistent with their beliefs or previous behaviors, often motivating them to seek consistency. So it's cognitive dissonance. This is the discomfort people feel when their actions are inconsistent with their beliefs or previous behaviors. We do seek consistency because we don't want to have this discomfort later on. And when individuals frequently vacillate, they may experience internal conflict and appear unreliable to others. Remember Gracián's warning that this results in loss of credit and trustworthiness, of course. Another psychological concept, decision paralysis and overchoice. There was a book, The Paradox of Choice, explores how having too many options can lead to analysis paralysis, making individuals more likely to vacillate and less likely to commit to decisions. Although I don't think this is the real problem here. I know that we have too many options and choices in the modern world today, and it does lead to indecisiveness, but I really don't, that's not what we're talking about here. I think for those of you that have this issue, you know it's not because there's too many options or choices. Indecisiveness, vacillation, flip-flopping, waffling doesn't come from having too many choices. It comes from other things. And those are things that we have to work out inside of us and integrate. And it can be emotional. Of course, they're emotionally charged, emotionally laden. It's not about that there's 30 flavors of ice cream and you're having trouble picking one. I wish these were the problem, our problems. So another psychological point, willpower and decisiveness. Now, I don't like to talk about modern day scholars because with some of them I really I think that their work pales in comparison to the scholars that came before them. But present day work shows that decisiveness, the ability to commit to a course of action, is linked to greater willpower and self-control. Of course, remember we talked a lot about willpower. William James, 125 years ago, amazing work, willpower. Ability to hold your attention to an idea or thought and exert your effort to maintain that attention. It's hard. Paying attention is difficult. Paying attention is difficult, especially when it's not something that's enjoyable or palatable or engaging or exciting. You have to work on you have to achieve a goal. You have to do something you know is good for you, but it's distasteful or discomforting. We have to pay attention to that. You're studying for something, you're working on something you don't want to. You'd rather be doing another thing that's more fun. So we have to hold that idea in our mind, pay attention to that, and apply effort, cognitive effort. It's not muscular effort, it's cognitive effort. We talked about all this, it's pretty amazing. Willpower can be strengthened. I really strongly recommend you go back and watch those videos. They're more like lectures, could be tedious, but you will get value from them. And there's 4 different videos. They get simpler if you watch them in sequence. They get shorter, simpler, drives the point home. You can strengthen willpower. Willpower is your ability to focus mentally on an idea and hold your focus there and make a conscious decision to act, to action based on that attention that you're holding. Volition, good word. All right, back to what we're talking about here. Flip-flopping, waffling. I don't know how they came up with waffling here. There's a social media post, I don't know if it's TikTok or Instagram or something. Some guy's staring at a toaster and then waffles jump out and he's trying not to be surprised or something. Some young kid, he had like 100,000 views or something like this. Meanwhile, we're teaching useful content and he's beating us out. So let's see here. We talked a little bit about William James here, his work, Willpower. He wrote extensively about the psychology of will and the importance of decisive action in the principles of psychology. That was William James. So he argued that the ability to act without hesitation is a mark of a well-developed will and is necessary for effective living. It's great. So what are the practical implications for you? Number 1, I don't like numbering. It's too much numbering is a problem. Let's just say practical implications are impact on relationships, effect on self-concept, and then strategies for overcoming vacillation. So impact on relationships, you know too well what that is. Vacillation erodes trust. Indecision, flip-flopping, whatever, erodes trust in personal and professional relationships. Because others will perceive the indecisive person, vacillating person as unreliable or lacking integrity. And the effect on self-concept, frequent changes in decisions or beliefs can lead to internal confusion, and a fragmented sense of self makes it harder for individuals to develop confidence in their own judgment. So how can we overcome vacillation? Well, if your problem is 30 flavors of ice cream, then just limit your choices. Very easy, right? You're shopping for toothpaste, limit your choices. But I wish all of our problems were like this. I think you can develop routines or heuristics for common decisions. Heuristics are mental shortcuts. So if you know that your indecision is related to certain types of considerations, interpersonal relationships, closer relationships, professional, whatever it is, you can develop routines or mental shortcuts to help you there. And practice mindfulness. It's funny because it seems today that practice mindfulness is a solution to everything. But you could, you just sit with yourself and become more self-aware. That's all we're talking about. What are the underlying anxieties, emotions driving this indecisiveness? That is crucial. It's probably the most important thing. Reflect on core values to guide your consistent action. That's a really good one. Your core values. So if you feel like you're being too kind, what is that? We talked about being a people pleaser. Earlier video, if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. I think it's a great video, people pleasing. That was way back. Okay, I did a video on that. Search for it. So if you're too kind, people pleasing, your first instinct is to say yes, is to overextend yourself. Then later on, you feel bad about that. That's what we're talking. This flip-flopping, waffling. Even if you ended up doing something for someone, but you feel bad about it later. So the decision itself, you didn't flip-flop or waffle, but internally, it's just all hell is breaking loose. Or you say yes to someone, and then later on, you're like, wait a minute, I'm doing too much, I'm too kind, or I'm overextending myself. And then you talk to them again, hey, I can't go, I can't do that. So that's the vacillation there. In the future, work with yourself so that when something happens, this opportunity, we're going to look at these challenges as opportunities. When it presents itself, say, hey, there's a good chance I'm going to feel bad about this later. I'm going to back out of it. Let me sit with these two right now, yes and no. And let me consider myself right now and how I'm going to be thinking and feeling an hour or a day or a week from now. We sit with both of these and try to come up with the mean, right? Aristotle, the mean, the center line, the midpoint, and do it. Force yourself to do that. You'll feel much better about it. But that's a win. And you'll get stronger at this every single time. Willpower, it's like a muscle you can keep working on. So just really briefly, I want to touch on psychological reasons that help explain chronic vacillation. I'm not going to go through everything. This is the forest. We don't want to get stuck in the woods here, but I'm going to give you a little bit just to start you off if you want to look more into this. So chronic vacillation. There's emotional reactivity. This 4. Emotional reactivity, neuroticism. That's what neuroticism is, okay? Emotional reactivity. Some people are naturally more emotionally reactive. They worry more. They imagine worst case scenarios. And that emotional noise makes decisions feel unstable. Today they're enthusiastic, tomorrow they're anxious. The internal storm in someone who's significantly emotional can shake even the most rational choice, right? It seems like the simplest choice can affect that. A lower self-concept clarity. So if you're not clear on who you are or what you really value, it's easy to drift. So you say yes to something because it sounds good in the moment, but you're not rooted in a deeper sense of purpose, of what it means to you, who you are. So you end up being pulled in different directions depending on who you're with or how you feel that day. Then we have something called controlled versus autonomous motivation. When your choices are shaped by what others think approval, other people's approval, guilt, that's a big one, pressure, so you're more likely to flip, right? You feel guilty about something, you're pressured into something, you make a decision or act, then later on you flip. When the feeling, sensation of guilt are gone or the pressures has subsided. But so we're talking about controlled versus autonomous motivation. So when your choices are shaped by what others think, social pressures is big here. And then conversely, when your motivation comes from within, because something truly matters to you, you're more likely to stay steady even when it gets hard. Remember a minute ago, we said, consider your values. I don't know how rare, if ever, it is for someone to sit and spend 10 minutes saying, hey, what are my values? And let me make a list of these values that I'm gonna uphold, I'm gonna live with. Not many of us do that. I think it'd be very, very helpful because it can guide our decision making. So being self-aware, mindful, values, working with your different states of mind, states of emotionality, trying to integrate the two so that you when you have to act or decide, it's more balanced. That's where the real work is. I think in whatever is causing your indecisiveness, flip-flopping, vacillation, you do these things, you're going to make progress. There's another thing in psychology, and this is not a comprehensive list. In psychology, they got 20 reasons why this may be. So I just wanted to give you a little sampler. Fear of finality. Some people avoid decisions because they fear closing doors. Every commitment means that other options die or disappear. So they keep all their options open, not out of freedom, but out of fear. And that's a good point. And that fear is what creates indecision, second guessing, chronic reversals. So we fear the commitment because we want to keep all of our options open. We don't want all these options to die. Can you relate with that? If you're out there watching this and you can relate with this, please leave a comment. I'd like to hear what your reaction or response to this. So what are our takeaways here from what we've been talking about? Notice the pattern. That is the first takeaway. Notice this pattern. I mean, if you're not self-aware, then just this whole talk, you could have been watching tarot card readings. Notice the pattern. If you're often saying one thing and doing another, start paying attention. Then second, ask where it's coming from. Ooh, that's great. So we notice the pattern. Somebody asked me for something. Oh, I felt like I had to do it for them because of my relationship with them, because I want to be kind, because I care for them. I say yes. Then the next day, I think about it logically, rationally. This doesn't make sense. So I say no. So I waffle, I flip-flop. I back out of my earlier commitment, or the words I said, the word I gave this person. Because I feel strongly about it now, logically and rationally, right, the next day. But in the heat of the moment, my first instinct was, say yes, help the person you care about. You got strong emotions and feelings. So now you're stuck with two extremes. And if you change your mind with that person, their trust for you, the credibility that you have with them is going to be diminished. You're going to feel cognitive dissonance. You're going to be uncomfortable with yourself. There's some anxiety there. You're going to be upset. And then this thing keeps repeating forever. What we want to do is recognize, is noticing what's happening here. And saying, next time this happens, I'm going to realize that this is very well going to change or might change. How may it change? Can I sit with these two extremes right now, pick the midline? And can I also think about what's causing this in me? Why am I indecisive? What is it in me psychologically that's making me indecisive? If you don't have the answer, just go do some research. Look for some potential causes. And then I guarantee you, when you do a little bit of that, and you think about your past, and maybe your childhood or the things you've been through, what is it? What is is it fear-based? Is it social, interpersonal? I'm sure you'll find out. And then finally, build your inner compass. So you could journal, you can go to therapy, you can read, you can have a spiritual practice. That's what I mean by that. Journaling is great. Therapy is terrific. Therapy is terrific. Not everybody you're going to get is going to be the same, but therapy is very useful. You can call it a coach. Call it whatever you want. So if this resonated with you, this talk, please subscribe. Subscribe for more. And remember, consistency doesn't mean being inflexible. It means being guided by something deeper than the mood of the day. So thank you for watching. Today was day 33. Please look out for day 34. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, come on. I'm still having this issue.